Hey, this your girl, msyelladiva. I'm bringing you another episode of Love and Marriage Huntsville, Season 10, Episode 3, More or Less Favorite, okay? If you're new here, welcome, 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 welcome. All right now, we do reviews here, okay? And if you're returning, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. All right, give me a thumbs up, like and share and comment and subscribe to my channel, and we will begin. All right, the episode begins where it left off last week, where they was uh with Marsau. No, oh, that ain't Marsau. It is Ken, Tisha, and Marquez, and they trying to resolve stuff, and they ain't doing it right. So last week, Ken told him to get the hell out of his house, and Marquez trying to still talk. So he like, are we moving forward? This is Marquez. Are we moving forward? Are we moving forward? And so Ken is still sitting down, and he was like, no, get out, get out. And he was like, we ain't moving forward, we ain't moving forward. And then he's like, y'all better get him, y'all better get him. And so Ken gets up, and Tisha trying to hold him back, and Sharon trying to hold Ken back, because Ken is big. He a Rottweiler. I told last week, I said when Ken got up, I said, Marquez was like, somebody come get this Rottweiler. Like, shout out to Low Dirty Shane. Miss Peaches, somebody come get this Rottweiler. Yeah, so he big. And so Sharon trying to hold him back, and Trisha trying to hold him back, and she was trying to tell Marquez to get out the house, get out the house. But Ken talking about, y'all, he better do what? You better do what? And so they go, I guess Ken, they can't hold Ken back, and so Ken go, I don't know what happened, because the camera didn't show any of this, but apparently they squabbled, because uh, after that, Marquez just walk out the house real fast and knocked over some shit. Okay, so, but I don't know if they squabble. Per Ken and Trisha, that they squabbled in the kitchen. We don't know, because the camera did not show it, but I don't really care. But Marquez, ran out the house really and knocked over some stuff. So Xavier also came down the stairs, and he I guess saw them squabbling, because it was in the kitchen, and he left with his dad. But we don't know what's going on back there. So in confessional, Ken and Trisha, and Ken was like, um, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is not on Do Not Disturb. Sorry. um. So yeah. So Ken was like, you told me it was gonna happen, and Trisha was like, yeah, I told you so. I told you so. And Ken was like, well, I thought I could be Captain Save-A-Ho. He didn't say Captain Save-A-Ho, but I say Captain Save-A-Ho. I thought I could be Captain Save-A-Ho, but it didn't work. Yeah, he says Super Saver, but I say Captain Save-A-Ho. Because that's what he doing. That's what he doing. He is trying to save this hoe, okay? So, anyway, we go on. Kimmy is calling Letitia. She was like, hey, T. Ain't her name Letitia? You ain't calling, hey, L. Hey, L Boogie, okay? But she said, hey, T. And only reason why I called that because a lot of people call me T, okay? But her name is Tisha. My name is just Tisha, okay? Anyway, I'm, that's neither here nor there. Okay, she inviting everybody to a girls' night, you know. And so she invited, everybody, um, including Destiny, but Destiny did not show up. Anyway, so her and Maurice is talking in the back, by the fire and stuff. And so she talking to Maurice about they want to open a family business, and it would just be Kimmy and Maurice and the boys, but the boys have reservations about this business. They feel like he gonna be real bossy. Maurice, he gonna be real bossy. But Kimmy said you just talk too much, and she was like, you need to work instead of just talking. So they have reservations about this family business. And then Kimmy said Jaylin didn't really look at you like a father figure. You never made him feel like a son. Marsau is his father figure. Kimmy, you need to come to the front. You need to come to the front. So you married a man that never made your son, never made your son feel like a son. You married him. You married a man that did not look. Your son did not look to him as a father figure. You married a man like that. I blame you, Kimmy. I blame you. I blame you. You married this man that basically ignored your son. You married him. I blame you. Anyway, Chris and Nell, because this really irritates me. It really irritates me. Kimmy, I lost all respect for you. And I had total respect for you because you was a nurse and I'm a nurse. But I lost all respect for you. All of it. Okay, let's get here. Nell and Chris talk. Nell is telling Chris that Kimmy wants a little girls' night out or whatever. And she said, this is the first time I'm gonna see Destiny, and I'm kind of upset with Destiny because she said she needs to reevaluate her friendship with me because I invited Sunny to the bachelorette party, and so she says she need to reevaluate her friendship. No, you not. Okay. Nell invited Sunny because production told her to. Okay, that's the end of that. Moving on. So the ladies get together for this girls' night. Okay. And it's Tisha, Kimmy, Nell, and Letitia. Destiny did not show. She I don't know. They said she in the TikTok streets. I don't know what that means. Okay, but she didn't show. So so the ladies get together, and so Trisha can't wait to tell her business. She told it flat out, and she was just like she was telling everybody that Marquez and Ken squabbled and all the other stuff. Who cares? Okay. So Kimmy tells the people that Jaylin thinks of Marsau as a father figure rather than Maurice, and so Kimmy admits that Maurice is a very hands-off father. I blame you, Kimmy. I blame you. Because you married this man. You married him. Um, so Letitia changed the subject to to Nell. She said, Letitia said, Nell, you left us in LA after the reunion. And so Nell was like, yeah, we had to get back, because Lance had a baby. And they tell him that little Chris had a baby too. Apparently they 5 months apart. Um, um, but Nell said Lance didn't know the girl was pregnant. I doubt that. I doubt that he didn't know she was pregnant. But he said they had been knowing each other for 5 years. So if they've been knowing each other for 5 years, how come he didn't know she was pregnant? I doubt that. So Kimmy was like, "Oh, he spun the block, going back to somebody previous. Yeah, he did." And she told him he was pregnant. Okay, but he had to be on TV with Destiny, acting like he dating Destiny. Yep, I know. So Letitia was like, how how are you doing with everything? She asking Nell because she the knee high private eye, okay? Knee high, okay? It's not inch high because she's a little taller than that. She knee high private eye. She said, because I was side eyeing you now, because you was rooting for him and Destiny, and all the while and you knew the girl was pregnant, but Nell said, I didn't know she was pregnant. He was like, and she said, and I have nothing to do with that, I don't, that's Lance's business. I ain't got nothing to do with that. So Kimmy said, well, Tisha just felt like, you were rooting for Destiny and Lance to get together. And so Nell was like, yeah, at first. She said, and then she said, at first, she was like, but when you found out Lance was having a baby, that's when you wasn't rooting for her. She said that changed your mind. Is that what changed your mind? No. She said no. She said I was having she said what she said? She said um it was before the baby. That's what it was. It was before the baby. And she was just showing red flags around. So Tisha was and then so uh Nell in the confessional, she was like, Tisha got a lot of questions. She was like, she throwing at me. She was like, she got a lot of questions. She said, but you know what? I have some for her too. So then Nell turns the tables talking about Kimmy and Letitia. How did you uh, feel about when Martell's little interview that he did? Okay, how do you feel about what he said about your husband? So, of course, Knee High Private Eye was like, how did you feel? Nell, how did you feel? And Nell was like, I was blown back. She was like, yeah, I was blown back, and Trisha kept butting in. She was like, yeah, she was like, but it was a little ghetto little uh interview, and it was the ghetto interview. I don't even think I watched the whole thing. It was real ghetto. Okay, you know, but I totally believe, and this is just my opinion. Every man on Huntsville is cheating on their wives. Every man on Huntsville is cheating on their wives. Okay? Okay. Every last man. Okay? So, I mean, you know, the wives ain't gonna leave him. So, except for Mel, she left. But I think, Martell thought that she wasn't gonna leave because all the other men is cheating on their wives, and their wives are staying. Okay, so Martell thought that Mel was gonna stay too, and I still believe that if they weren't on this show, Mel would still be there. Okay, I do believe that, and that is just my opinion on that. But once she got on this show, she got something different, and she out. And I don't blame her. I'm not mad at that whole situation. But I do believe, because I think that's just how these ladies, do things. Okay? I said, it couldn't be me, but right. I stayed. I stayed for a while, and then after a while, I was like, I'm done. I'm done. Okay. But yeah, I do believe that she would have stayed. But anyway, but Kimmy asked Tisha, did you see this whole interview? And Tisha was like, no, I didn't. And so Kimmy was like, well, she said, well, I saw it. She was like, and I understand why he did it after Tisha put his business out in the street, Martell's business out in the street, and so Tisha said, well, no lies told. And what that business was is that Letitia said on Carlos King podcast or YouTube, whatever, she said that Martell was doing men before too. Okay, so she was like, he was doing men, back long time ago, whatever. He was doing men. Okay, so that's why Martell got pissed off, and he did his little interview with this side chick of Martell, no, of Marsau, and I think something had to do with Maurice. Like I said, I ain't watched the whole interview, but yeah, okay. But Tisha said that Martell do men. Okay, so. And she said, no lies told. I ain't got nothing to do with none of that. I don't know. That's allegedly, because I have no idea. Tisha said that. I ain't say that, okay? I'm just giving y'all the backstory. Anyway, Tisha was telling Kimmy, she said, well, I was telling Kimmy, I don't know about these Fletchers, She said, because when Chris said that Maurice and... Hold on. Hold on. All right, I'm back, y'all. I had a call from my grandbaby, so I had to talk to her. Anyway, so Tisha was telling Kimmy that she ain't know about these Fletchers, honey, about them signing NDAs. Making that statement that Marsau and Maurice have ladies sign NDAs. And so Nell was like, I can't control what Chris says and does. She said, but Kimmy was like, well, it did bother Maurice. It really did. And so Nell was like, I'm sorry about that. And she was like, I'll have a talk with Chris. So Tisha was like, well, it's in the past. She was like, this is 2024 was coming to an end. What we going to do in 2025? And Trisha was like, I got my Western theme, Western theme birthday party. Let me try that again. Boo, Western thing birthday party, but whatever. So, Jaylin talking to Maurice. Jaylin said that I have a job offer in Colorado, and I said, "Yeah, go for it." But and then they were talking about how he looked at Marsau as a father figure more so than you did, more 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 than Maurice, and so and Jaylin feels like he was harder on him than he was on Maurice Jr. He said we would be playing the same video games and stuff like that, and you will call me to do whatever needs to be done. And Maurice Jr. still playing these video games, okay? Still playing these video games. And so Maurice tries to give an explanation of why he did it. He said, because you were older and you had more responsibilities than Maurice Jr. I call bullshit. Okay, moving on.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
Yep, it's the biggest piece of dog shit. Okay. Anyway, Ken, Will, and Chris are talking. Okay. And they could talking in, I think, that same bar that Will and Ken was talking in before. They just invited Chris next. Okay, so Ken is fussing about Marquez again. Okay, and so Will, you was dropping some gems, okay? You was dropping some gems, and you ain't bad on the eyes. But anyway, Will said, "You think it's a challenge, so that's why you don't want to leave you because it's a challenge to you, so you don't want to leave." And so, and Chris was like, "Yeah, it's like a puzzle." That you just trying to fix, and so you get, you don't want to leave because you trying to fix this puzzle. And Ken was like, well, I haven't been trying to solve the puzzle. I'm just trying to put the pieces in. And so Chris said, yes you have, you trying to solve it, And Will said, well, he said it's not even just him as far as Marquez. He said the whole relationship is a puzzle. Okay, the whole relationship. And then Ken was like, well, everything in life is a puzzle. Everything in life is a puzzle. And so but Will was like, well, sometimes you gotta put that puzzle back on the shelf. If you can't fix it, sometimes you gotta put that puzzle back on the shelf. Or basically release her to the streets, okay? Release her, okay? Drop her like a bad habit. Release her to the streets. That's what he want to say, okay? And he said, and Will said maybe all the pieces, the pieces don't have all the pieces in there. So he said, so and so he said, so you just gotta put the puzzle back on the shelf. And so Ken was like, the pieces got all the pieces to it. He said just the Marquez is just an extra piece or something. I was like, release her to the streets. That's what you need to do. And so Ken was like, but outside of Marquez, we don't have a problem. We don't have a problem, but outside of Marquez. And so Will was like, well, listen, it's not even a even playing field. He said, so it's not even an even playing field. He was like, so if if you don't leave and after a while, it's gonna be your fault. If you still sitting there taking all this bullshit, basically what he's trying to say, it's gonna be your fault. Okay, fool me once, okay, it's my fault, but fool me twice, it's your fault. Yeah, that's what he's saying. It's gonna be your fault. Cause he said because the problem is you got used to being there, and it's hard to leave a place when you got used to being there. So he said, and then Chris was like, "Yep, that's exactly what's happening." He said he got used to being there, and he don't want to leave. And then Chris asked Will. He said, "Well, what would you do in this situation?" And Will said, uh, Trisha will be a thing of the past. I know that's right. He said, I'm not bumping my head against that wall. He said, I think I bumped it once or twice, but that's it. He said, I'm done. And I don't blame him. But, Ken won't to stay. I think, honestly and truly, I think he just wants to be on TV. I think every last one of them, I think Trisha, Ken, and Marquez want to be on TV. I do. I do. That's it. I think it is. I don't really think it's the some crazy situation. I think they all want to be on TV. And so every time I see them on TV, I get annoyed because I know they acting out to be on TV. Anyway, and Ken try to keep his cool, but then he just lose it. Yep. Okay, so Maurice and Kimmy's having dinner with Letitia and Marsau. Marsau tells Maurice that Jaylin came by his site looking for contractors and things like that. And then he also said that he didn't think of he thought of me, Marsau, as a father figure, and he looked at Maurice just like a big brother. And he also said that you treated Maurice Jr. differently than you treated him. So, same mess. So Maurice was like, yeah, he thinks of you as a dad. And Maurice said, no, he thinks of me as a father figure. Dad and a father figure is different. I don't know how they're different, but that's fine. Maurice was like, the same thing. I treated him like the older kid, just like when we grew up. And Kimmy said, Maurice, Maurice and I had these conversations before. I feel like he treated Jaylin differently too. And you still married him. And you still married him. He treats his son better than he treats your son. And you okay with that? You okay with that? And then this is what brought me to tears. He gravitated to Marsau because he gravitated to Marsau more because Marsau liked him. So you mean to tell me that you married a man that didn't even like your goddamn son? Kimmy, I blame you. I blame you. I blame you all day long and twice on Sunday. You gonna marry this man that he don't like your son? Where did they do that at? Where did they do that at? Okay, listen. I can't even stay on this topic because it's gonna bring me to tears. Cause I got a son. And I'd be damned if I marry a man that doesn't even like my motherfucking. I would. Nope. Can't even do it. No. Nope. Nah, I gotta go. Anyway, we gonna finish this. Well, Marsau said that, it's hard enough to even talk to you sometime, Maurice. He said, but I grew up Maurice was a golden child. And so he said, I totally understand. He said, because Maurice Jr. is golden child 2.0 in Jaylin's eyes. And that's the reason. And so then Maurice said, you sound like Chris Fletcher. I don't even know where that came from. But Maurice said, well, not Maurice, Marsau said that you sound pathetic. And Maurice was like, you can't even tell me the truth. And Marsau was like, you think I'm lying? And Maurice was like, yeah, you lie all the time. And so Tisha had to take a drink like, oh yeah, Marsau do lie all the time, or what did he lying about? So she had to take a drink. We don't know what was in Tisha's head, okay? When he do lie all the time, or what was he lying about? Can we discuss what he lied about? But whatever the case may be, that's where the episode ends. So, but Kimmy, I still blame you. I still blame you. You married a man that treated your son differently than he treats his own son. You married a man that didn't like your son, or did like him a little bit, but Marsau liked him a whole lot more than Maurice. No. You married this man. I don't know why you married this man, but you married this man that didn't like your son. I blame you. Only you. Anyway, give me a thumbs up. Like and share and comment and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.